For the longest time, the American story was pretty simple. You moved for a better job. But something fundamental has shifted. There is a massive reshuffle happening right now, and it's not just changing our zip codes, it is completely rewriting the rules for real estate. Let's break down what this really means.
So what's really driving this huge shift in where people choose to live? Is it still about chasing that big city career, or is there a new, much more personal calculation going on? That's the core question we're going to tackle in this explainer. And here's the answer, right up front. The classic American motivation for moving, economic opportunity, it's been replaced. The new driver is something way more personal. It's a search for affordability, for family, and for a better quality of life. And this single point changes everything that follows.
So let's kick things off by just understanding the sheer scale of this change. We're calling it a Great American Reshuffle, and that's not an exaggeration. It truly is a historic shift in our national migration patterns.
Yeah, forget that old go west young man idea. The promise of open land and striking it rich has been replaced by a desire for something totally different. Today's moves are all about being closer to family, finding a place where your paycheck actually goes further and, just enjoying your day-to-day life a little more.
Okay, so how does this actually play out in the real world? Let's get specific about these new motivations and take a look at what the data tells us about why people are really packing their bags. This quote from Ely Cummings at United Van Lines, these are the people who see these trends firsthand. It just nails it. It's not just about the money, it's about seeking a different pace of life. That one little phrase captures the entire essence of this shift.
And it's not just one thing. It's this powerful combination of wanting cheaper housing, actively choosing smaller, less chaotic markets, and putting family connections and personal well-being ahead of that traditional corporate ladder.
So if the why is changed, it only makes sense that the where is changed too. This next section is all about mapping out the new destinations that are absolutely booming because of these new priorities.
And get this, for the first time ever, the #1 moving destination in the entire country was Oregon. Yeah, Oregon. It's not your typical Sunbelt superstar, right? With inbound moves beating outbound by more than 2-to-1, it tells us that the very definition of a desirable place to live is evolving, and fast.
But while Oregon took that top spot, a very clear regional trend is still happening. The South and the South Atlantic are absolute magnets. We're talking about states like the Carolinas, West Virginia, and Arkansas. They're drawing in huge numbers of new residents who are all looking for that same mix of affordability and lifestyle.
This chart really clarifies the timeline. That initial pandemic gold rush to states like Florida and Texas, it's cooling off. They're now seeing what's called balanced migration, meaning just as many people are moving out as are moving in. The real story, the new surge, is happening in these next wave places like the Carolinas and, you guessed it, Oregon.
But it's not a simple story. Look at New Jersey. It's a fascinating paradox. You have younger generations actually moving in because they're looking for a more affordable way to stay connected to New York City. At the same time, retirees are moving out like crazy, making it a top outbound state overall. It just shows you how different these patterns can be depending on who you are.
So people are moving for new reasons to new places, and different generations are sometimes heading in completely opposite directions. But what does that actually mean for the buildings, the businesses, and the investors on the ground? Well, this is the real estate ripple effect.
This quote from Ryan Severino at BGO really gets to the heart of it. If people are moving for their lifestyle instead of some high-powered job in a central business district, then the kind of commercial real estate they need to support that lifestyle has to be different too. It's a simple thought, but it's a profound one.
So here's the logic, laid out nice and clear. It all starts with one person's choice, finding a smaller, more affordable home. But that single decision cascades through the entire market, creating demand for a totally different ecosystem of commercial spaces all around them.
So, what are these new better bets for investors? Think practical. As people move into denser, more affordable housing, they suddenly need self-storage. As work becomes more flexible, they need smaller, modest office parks closer to home. And their shopping needs shift towards value. So think discount grocers and accessible middle-income retail centers.
And that brings us to our final section. What does this all mean for investors? Because the old playbook of just betting on population growth in the Sunbelt, well, it's officially outdated. It is time for a new one. This timeline shows you just how quickly that old playbook failed. The pandemic sparked this massive development boom in the South. By 2024, new housing inventory hit a 50-year high. But today, that boom has created an oversupply and rents are actually falling in those very same markets.
Manos Clancy from Lightbox puts it bluntly. Investors who piled in thinking that 8% rent growth would last forever were met with a harsh reality. There was, as he says, an enormous amount of buyer's remorse.
This table really breaks down the costly mistake. Investors misread a short-term, pandemic-fueled surge as a permanent structural change. They bet that 8% annual rent growth was the new normal, so they built a ton of housing. But a lot of those new residents, they didn't stick around. The result is a saturated market, falling rents, and a lot more caution from investors going forward.
And here's the bigger picture from the U.S. Census that investors just can't ignore. It's not just that migration patterns are changing, the overall rate of growth is slowing down. Population, household formation, migration, all of these fundamental drivers are decelerating.
So the crucial point is this: the easy money is gone. The days of just throwing a dart at a map of the Sunbelt and expecting a win are over. Investors now have to be way more nuanced, more strategic, and more selective to succeed.
So this whole reshuffle leaves us with a big question. This is more than just a real estate trend. It's a social one. As the hunt for affordability and a different quality of life continues to redraw the American map, what will the communities of tomorrow actually look and feel like?